Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Hard Claim with Viva La Sam. I'm Sam, and this is a show where we talk to people who play Blood on the Clocktower and get their player perspective of the game. This week we're doing something a little different, because not only do we have Nina, but we have myself. We're going to be interviewing each other. You've probably seen Nina around before. She plays in my games, has for quite a while now, and she also does all the editing and basically producing for Hard Claim and for getting videos up on YouTube. So Nina, thanks for being here.
I'm excited. I'm always here. You just don't see me normally.
That's what I was going to say. Nina's always lurking in the background, giving me tips on what I should be asking and all that. Although a lot of times she doesn't really have a lot to say, which I figured probably means I'm doing well enough at the time.
You're doing a great job, Sam.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's good times. And speaking of which, let's get started with our opening hard claim question. What would you like to claim?
I didn't even look at that. It's interesting.
And it's a little weird because one of us had to be the storyteller, so to speak, to pass out characters. So I actually can see everybody. So we're pretending a little bit, but
So I think that I would likely claim something along the lines of investigator or artist. Ooh. And say that I used, investigator, I would get the information already, but artist, I'd say I already asked the question. Just to kind of be a low target priority.
Well, funny about that is I am the artist. Yeah.
So then I would either lean into investigator or just probably hard claim monk.
So a good artist question would be to perhaps test your investigator info if you had that to share, or just go with something else. Yeah. Sometimes I might hold on to it, I guess, until later. Sometimes I might, I don't know, I think today I would feel like just kind of using it right away, and then just because so we have extension cord loaded up here because why not? It is my script after all, and Cannibal can be useful here. Yeah.
Saying that's why I would, if I was the artist, I would probably do the same thing using my question early on because of that cannibal. It's like I like to get first night information and then just be killed day one and have everybody believe me. It's kind of a thing if you watch any of Sam's games.
A bit. And then when you're playing and you don't want to be killed, it's like, Well,
see, I don't always want to be killed. If I'm a good character and I get information.
Just usually.
If it's not information roll, yeah.
Right. Well, good.
Nah, I was just going to say, I remember one game where I was the town crier and everybody wanted me dead because I was like, I have information, don't kill me. And they're like, you always want to die. So, anyway.
Right. All right. Well, so how did you discover Blood on the Clocktower, and about how long ago was that?
So lots of people have said it. NRB. My husband mentioned it. He'd seen the Kickstarter after it had funded and was like, or a review. I don't remember who it was that did the review, but he was like, "You would love this game." He knew I like social deduction games, and I like puzzly games more than just social deduction. So he's like, this is everything you like out of a game. And so we watched No Rolls Barred play, and then I got addicted. I watched their episodes 3 or 4 times each, just to try to really study the game and the way the characters worked and stuff like that. And then I went to Dice Tower West back in 2021, I think it was, 2021 or 2022. And I met Trey out there and then played a game with him, and then found your games, and I've been playing with you ever since.
Yeah.
So what about you, Sam? When did you find it?
So oddly, I have 2 answers to this. So in 2018, I was just kind of discovering board games, and this is going to be a little bit of a longer answer, but the first thing I kind of came across was a channel called JK Party, and they were playing a lot of like social deduction games. The big one that I remember, they were doing Mafia, but the other one was One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
And One Night Ultimate Werewolf ended up being my first board game that I bought. And watching them play, I just really loved that. You're all working together, except some of you secretly aren't, and it just tickled my brain in a way. It sounded scary, but very fun. And got it, played with some friends. They're not really into board games as much, but they liked it quite a bit. So fast forward 2019, go to a local board game convention, play Werewolf there, like a big, 30-person game. Pretty fun. Go to Gen Con. I'm in an unofficial server for Gen Con. And long story short, I ended up getting into some in-person games at Blood on a Clocktower. Did 2 different games, I think maybe one on 2 different days. Both games were Bad Moon Rising. No idea what was going on. No, the first game I was the Goon. No idea what that meant. Or I mean, I could see my character sheet, of course, and this is 2019, so the game, I think maybe the Kickstarter had just finished. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it would be some number of years before that would be ready. So this is all print and play DIY stuff. And the storyteller seemed good. It just, obviously we should have been starting out with Trouble Brewing. I'm pretty sure it's probably like a 15-player game. I know a Traveler came at one point. Very lost. I remember we won. Goon, I think at that time was still each night. So every time a character picked you at night, you turned into their alignment and made them drunk. Whereas, now it's just once per night, the first one. So I remember one night I turned evil and then turned back good. And I was like, this means something. I don't know what, but it means something. We ended up winning. The other game, I was the Exorcist. I never ended up picking the demon, but we ended up winning anyway. So, I don't know. So that was my first initial experience. It wasn't the strongest impression. I got the impression that I think maybe if I did more of this, I would like it, but I don't know. It was very weird. So fast forward to the next year, 2020, it's a pandemic. I'm watching more of the Dice Tower as I'm still growing more into board games. Tom Vassell starts doing werewolf games for content for the channel. Big 24-player games because it's all through Zoom, and 25 was kind of like the max, so 24 plus moderator. And what do you know, he's got a Facebook group where you can join and get in on these games. Do that. Scott in the group started running Blood on a Clocktower. Got into that. It was probably a month or so. I'm like, I want to storytell. And
you've been hooked since?
Yeah. I should probably not go past my first game. Because my first game there was I was the imp. It was Trouble Brewing. I actually have this video up on this very channel for anybody who wants to go back and watch it. It's got a pretty good amount of views, actually.
I might need to do that.
Yeah, scared to death, but and the group's new at the game at this point. There's a lot of people. A lot of those players we don't see anymore. Some we still do. So they're obviously they're experienced now, but basically, trying to figure out how that played out. A librarian pulls me and one of my minions aside and says, I'm the librarian, I saw one of you two as a drunk. Well, I know I'm not the drunk, and I know my minion's not the drunk, so I know she's the drunk. I'm claiming monk. So that night I kill a player, we wake up the next day, they're announced as dead. I'm like, oh, well, I was a monk and I tried to protect them, and it didn't work, so I must be the drunk. Just skirted the whole game just as that. It fell apart on the last day when people started asking me who I picked each night, and I faltered, and they were like, but they'd already nominated me, so victory was pretty much already assured, and it was a little too late at that point. Rode that high, I felt like, for a week. I've always said I prefer to be good, but winning as evil is a lot more exhilarating, and
yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever top that one, because I was, scared to death, and yeah. But yeah, that was my kind of start for Blood on the Clocktower. My 2 different starts, anyway.
I remember my first game with you. I was the puzzle master, and I guessed that Robert on the couple weeks back was the drunk, and I was right. And you gave me Becky as my demon, and I announced it to everyone. I was the puzzle master, and Robert was my puzzle drunk, and Becky's the demon. And no one believed me. I still ride that high because I was right.
And that was on this script too.
It was.
I don't know if it was probably not this version of the script yet. I'm not sure. But yeah.
It's like March or April. I want to say had to be 22. So
yeah, I might have had this version. If I didn't have this version, it was pretty close. So would you say you were hooked on that first game right away, or
I was hooked before I even played? Like the fact that I could watch the same game played. I like board games. I have 500 plus board games in the other room. I love board games. I really love puzzly board games. One of my favorite games prior to Blood on the Clocktower was Battlestar Galactica. So it had that very, you have to figure out how to manage the resources that you have and do well enough to survive to the end. And there's actively someone messing with things and causing things to go wrong. So it's that same feel, but in literally just characters and talking and with this game. And so when I watched it played, and I was like, oh, I want to watch that again, and I want to watch another episode, and I need to find as much of this as I can. And so I was addicted before I ever played. We bought the game, and I was storytelling for my daughter and for other groups around, because I was the only one who knew it well enough to say how things interacted, but I messed up a bunch of times when I first started telling, leading the game, but and I still do, but it's fun, and I enjoy trying and then getting to play. I think I story told maybe once or twice when we were on Zoom. I haven't since we switched to the new app and the new way, but when I was looking at it the other day, I was thinking, man, it would be fun to try.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mentioned that first game I played in person, or a couple of games. Like I said, it wasn't the strongest impression. I had a feeling that maybe if I spent more time with it, that it could be fun. But I didn't know when that would ever happen. But, it just so happened the opportunity came up online. Being able to play this online is a huge opportunity for... I feel like that's been very, very important for the game's development. So yeah, after I did that first game online and won as Imp, I think I was pretty much immediately hooked. And there was for quite a while we were playing on Fridays and Saturdays. We would play until like 5 a.m. on like Saturdays or something. It did kind of get to the point my wife was like, you need to kind of not play so much, and there had to be a balance that had to be struck there, which was very fair. But that's how hooked I was at the time. I
think I would be okay with playing an all-nighter one time, but like depending on how this last time we played, I was like zombie tired by the time we were done with the last game. I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I had a lot of players that was like that. I noticed that everybody was just like, and some of our players are from the UK, so it's when they play till like 1 a.m., which is my time when this game, or my Friday games usually end like 5 or 6 a.m. for them.
Yeah. I am grateful for the hour difference. I get a little bit more time.
Yeah. Occasionally we get people from, Josh, for example, is from, California, so he's 3 hours before. And then you have somebody like Lewis, who's from Australia, so he's literally in the late morning the next day. So
I love how the online community has made this game so... I live in a teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and the closest decent game store that offers Clocktower is an hour away, which is great that I can even do that, but it's a commitment to go an hour away. And they only play on Saturdays. So it's just, I love that we can find a time that we all can get together and play. And I've met some really great people. I think some really great friends I've made getting to play online, and friends all over the world. So
mean, I'd say ultimately that was kind of probably why I find doing this show interesting, is because we know a lot of cool people, and it's interesting to talk to them about the game.
Yeah. Make new friends. So.
Yeah. And so I end up playing. I actually don't play that often. I storytell the vast majority of the time. I've been storytelling weekly in my Friday slot since I think early 2021, roughly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't actually play that often. But how often do you get to play?
Well, Sam, I play a lot. I play it every Friday night, at least twice, usually twice. I have a crazy work schedule, so I spend a lot of time at work. I do video editing for my church, and so that schedule can be insane, which I think is why I love that we play on Friday nights. So I typically try to make sure that I get every Friday night and I play online. And I typically storytell for my daughter and her friends when she has her friends over. She actually threw a birthday party for a friend of hers, and they played Clocktower. It's like, they've never played this game before, but this is the party that she's throwing for her friend.
That's fun.
So, and they had a blast. She had like 15 or so kids over. Maybe it wasn't quite that many, but anyway, it was a good amount of teenagers all in my house playing Blood on the Clocktower and just giggling and having a blast. Which happened. It actually. So Steve has been playing Clocktower with us on Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to. I think his first experience with the game was watching me storytell for my kids. So
okay, cool. You get to play in person very often?
Just at cons. So, and it's been a while. I guess November was the last time I played in person. So,
okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we have a local con here in April, and I usually storytell, but I'm also usually filling in on other people's games and playing. And locally, well, somewhat locally, I'm a little bit away from Lexington. Not quite as far as your closest store, but for me it's like a 35 minute drive. It isn't horrible, but I'm usually storytelling there, and we've been doing that about once a month. On a rare occasion, though, I'll play instead. We're still kind of like trying to build up our group.
Well, I loved playing for your birthday. You got to play.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Yeah, as of this recording, that was a little over a week ago, almost a week and a half ago, and I decided to make a little bit of a longer stream and play all three games just to do something a little different. Yeah, and I did enjoy that quite a bit. I still prefer storytelling, but I do like playing as well.
I'll say Sam and I rocked that one game. That's the one I posted, right? I don't even remember. We played 3 games that night, but that's the one I think.
The birthday feast game.
Yeah.
That Melishawn storytold. We lost, but I lost all 3 games that night, actually.
Oh no! I don't even remember.
I don't consider myself a good player, but thankfully I don't really mind. I'll just stick to being a good storyteller, I guess.
You're my favorite storyteller, Sam.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm my favorite too. What do you think it was like for you going from, say, like a beginner player to an intermediate player to an experienced player? Do you kind of remember what that progression sort of like?
I do, and the funny thing is like, so the first game I played in was an S&B game because I had felt comfortable with the game. But I remember making a really dumb mistake, and it was like I was an outsider in an S&B game, and I know now I would never come out as an outsider in an S&B game until I know it's not a Fangu game. But that's the first thing I did. It was like, I'm going to tell everyone that I'm the sweetheart. I think it was like day 2 or day 3 that I did. And then it turned into this crazy mess because I was playing with a bunch of other people who didn't know what they were doing. And the Fangu jumped to me and then outed me, saying that I was evil because they jumped to me. So It was like, you're on my team, bozo.
Well, sometimes you just gotta make those mistakes and learn from them, I guess.
I think that's the thing. When you're playing the game and you're learning it and you're figuring out, you're going to make a lot more mistakes than you do later on, where you might not make quite as many mistakes, but you're still making mistakes because I think that's how you learn.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
So I remember some of our earliest games. We did do base script games, Trouble Brewing, Bad Man Rising, Sex and Violets. And I remember some of those earliest games just not really, trying to figure things out. And to be fair, I think part of that might have been storyteller error. But, I remember a game of Sex and Violets where we were pretty sure we knew who the demon was, but we couldn't get quite enough votes. And we go to bed, and then we wake up, and that player's died, and we're like, well, we thought that was a demon. Now, what we didn't understand was pit hagging making a new demon. And to be fair, I think the storyteller probably should have been killing 2 people to signal that. And I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think only 1 was killed. But either way, it left us very confused because we were very sure that was a demon. And they were dead. And we're like, well, where does that leave us now? And I remember at the end of the game, reading the pit hag ability after I knew that it was pit hag. And I'm like, I do not understand this. And now, I look at I don't even really have to think about a base script. I just kind of know. I mean, it's kind of funny because even after several years, you'll still find new interactions and base scripts that you didn't realize. But kind of the basics. We also did a lot of homebrew scripts for a while. Can't say that I can't say that I have a very positive experience from that, but now I think people kind of have a better idea of what makes a good custom script, and I just remember I remember doing Trouble Brewing once, and I don't remember what character I was. I just remember I was suspicious. Maybe I was an Undertaker. I remember being suspicious of my info, and everybody else being suspicious of their info. But I had that light bulb moment of, only so many people can be the drunk or poisoned at any given time. Not all of our info can be bad. And, now I'm like, well, that's obvious. But, when you're still kind of new or kind of intermediate, you have that, light bulbs moments like that. It's like, oh, well, and at a certain point I was like, I think I trust my info. And then I think I learned that we killed the poisoner during the day. And I was like, I don't think that's true. And then the next day we did kill the poisoner. I got poisoner 2 days in a row, and it all clicked together at some point. And I'm still not, I don't play as much as some other people, obviously, because I'm usually running the game. But I at least have the interactions down and kind of know what's possible, even if I don't necessarily know the best strategies for me.
Do you think that you get more strategies or more ideas because you get to storytell and watch things unfold in a different way than you do if you play?
I think it would be more efficient if I played more. I had a little bit of period where I was playing a little bit more, and I'm not so much now. Mostly, it's energy level thing, but I think the best storytellers are people who both play and storytell, and the best players are people who do both play and storytell, at least to some degree. It doesn't have to be like a 50-50 or anything. I definitely think that would help. If I played more, I think it would help me more, at least to some degree. Now, it doesn't necessarily, at least for me, help social read, or it depends how big your tell is. If I'm playing with Nina and she really doesn't want to die, that's a little sus.
That's not true.
It was true. It was true. It was true on my birthday.
Was it?
Yeah, you were evil and didn't want to die.
So there was. If I'm
you still won,
player,
so
yeah. I don't even remember being evil that night. If I'm a character specifically that gets a lot of information, like say the monk, I'm the monk, and I try not to die because I want to be useful. But if I'm like something that's just expendable, I'm like, kill me now, I don't care. But I will say, I think that I've been an evil minion or whatever, and not cared if I died and got myself killed, and then everyone believed me. So that doesn't always mean I'm good.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too because that meta does. You can. That's the whole thing about a meta is once a meta sort of figured out, then you can kind of exploit it and make that work in your favor. And that's another fun part about this game, I think, is that it is always evolving, even if you have the same group. Which we have some like core players who pretty much play every week. Some who play maybe like some weeks, some they don't. Then some kind of come and go, but for the most part, I mean, it's a group that knows each other well, and that meta is like always evolving, and I think that's a fun part of the game.
I remember the game. I was an imp, and I had a Scarlet Woman, and so I claimed like investigator or something like that, and I was like, I don't care if I die, you can kill me, and they killed me day one. Like I tried to nom the Virgin, who I knew was one of my minions, because I got that as a bluff, and I was like, we talked, and
that was such a fun game to watch as a storyteller because there was a world where you're evil and you nominated the Virgin. There's a world where the Virgin's evil and you nominated them, but nobody guessed the world where you were both evil. Nobody. Yep. Like that was one of the best Grim reveals I've ever done because everybody. It's hard to have a Grim reveal nowadays where everybody's just like completely surprised by something because of how experienced everybody is. But that one, and that's Trouble Brewing. That's the quote unquote beginner script. That was great. Chaos. Nobody saw that coming. So for you, I don't know how much you have played in person. I know you have played in person, but what do you think the differences are like for you between in person and playing online?
So for the differences for me, I like to take notes. I said I'm very strategic and analytical, and like I love that. Some of my favorite games are Vital Lacerda, and if anybody knows that he's like 4+ complexity rating on BGG. So the note-taking side of being online really helps me because I can really start puzzling things through. I also have a good memory. So playing in person, I try to have that really, remember what people say. So but it's definitely more relying on memory versus taking the notes. I think I would hate being the spy in an in-person game. Because I really love having that information. That's a really cool benefit of that character, or even the widow. But not being able to like look at it and be like, okay, or I screenshot it and then I slowly put it all in the Grim so that I can make sure that I still have it. So yeah, for me, the biggest difference is trying to remember all of the information versus being able to just write it down.
Yeah, and I think that highlights a big part of what because this game ultimately is built to be played in person, and as far as I'm aware, that's still how they're thinking about the game as they're working on the expansions. But it does translate pretty well to online. For me, I always say playing this online has made it my favorite game of all time, hands down, and playing in person is even better.
Yes. I would say I think I do enjoy playing it in person because you do get that interaction with people more than you do. Like you're reading body language. You're watching people.
Exactly.
I think I can see what people are doing easier in person than I can online because I'm like paying attention to talking to you, and then I have to like click over here to look at the voice chats and see who all is talking. I don't really do that. So
yeah, I know it's easier to just see people, like you said, see their body language. Also, conversations are more dynamic. It's easier to just kind of come up to a group or split off from a group, or you don't have to ping somebody, be like, "Oh, can we talk?" And then sorry, they've already gone off to somewhere else. No, it's pretty good. And one of the last in-person games I played in April, I remember we kind of easily figured out two of the minions because just the way they were talking to each other in a weird hushed way and pointing at the bottom of the script where the evil characters are. You can never be totally sure, but we did end up being correct on that. I don't know I think that ended up, well, it was a big part. I think we won that game as good, but it's different. But I would say in person's a little bit better than online, even though I just absolutely love playing online and doing everything there. It is a little different with the note taking. I try not to take a ton of notes online, but I do. Not because I have a great memory. Just to me, if I'm taking too many notes, it's a distraction from actually playing the game for me. So, and I also philosophically, at least as a storyteller, I try to run my games as best as I can so they're consistent. So if you go to play either in person or in somebody else's game, hopefully you have a kind of a consistent experience. It's why I like running Travelers, for example, because Travelers come up more in person than they do online usually. So I just like I like trying to mimic that as best as possible online, and not taking a heavy amount of notes. I think helps me with that.
Yeah. I love that you add travelers in because there's so many times I get stuck at work and I'm like, Sam, I'm going to be late.
Yeah, I mean, last game I ran, I had several people for the first game either not show up or you knew you were going to be late. Others, I think one other person told me they'd be late. Several others just didn't show up. But long story short, 12-player game, but I ended up adding you and then one other player as a traveler, like a day apart or something like that.
Yeah. I think I made
yeah.
it before you even started the game, but you would have had to
Oh,
like,
maybe. It,
yeah.
Yeah, when I'm busy setting up a game and streaming and stuff, it can be hard to like keep up with everything. I know
Yeah.
you or sometimes others will send me a Facebook message, and I sometimes won't even see it until like a half an hour later because it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. You're a popular guy.
So, experiences with other social deduction games. I can't remember how much you mentioned you've done other games, but have you done like a lot of Werewolf, Mafia, or you mentioned
So,
Battlestar Galactica, for example? Yeah.
love Battlestar Galactica. I like the hidden trader aspect in almost any game. There's also like Shadows over Camelot, which is got that again board game feel with that hidden trader. There's like hidden movement games that I like, where you know who the person is that's the bad guy, but they're just hidden information.
Right.
Um, I've played One Night. Yeah, One Night Werewolf.
One Night Ultimate
Um,
Werewolf.
yeah. And then we've also done Avalon. I love Avalon. We played that a lot when we first started getting into games. My husband and I have been playing games, whew, at least 10 years now. We started with like Pandemic and Battlestar Galactica.
Both
So
good
big
games.
difference.
I have
But
The Resistance is a game that I got quite some time ago now. My friends just it did not click with my friends at all. They I don't know they the strategy just doesn't click for them. So I don't know.
I like that social side of gaming. So even just in normal board games or other board games, um, the interactions with people and the conversations and that's what makes me love board gaming. It's one of the reasons why I think my husband and I have such a good relationship is because we can play a game together instead of doing other things. I'm not saying that that's the only way to do it. I'm just saying that for us it helps us. So I think that the social deduction type game like Blood on the Clock Tower, where it really forces those conversations and forces the relationship building or the whatever. I think that just kind of that just sings for me.
Yeah, I think for some people it ends up being a poor fit. They don't really handle the line and stuff very well. But I think for a lot of people who do end up being into the game, yeah, people, there's it feels strange to walk into a game. It's like, okay, friends, let's all go lie to each other, and then you come out on the other side, having fun, even if whether you've won or lost. Yeah, it's just fun, and everybody comes out on the other side a little bit closer, so to speak.
Well, that's ultimately the point. Is like
Right.
you're lying to people because it's the game. It's not what you want to do. I'm not going out to tell you that I'm the cannibal. I want to eat right. No, it's a fun character and you're just trying to figure out information and to help you solve a problem together ultimately, or not.
So I think we have the same answer to this one, but do you prefer to be in good or evil?
I like good.
I do too.
I
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I know for me to me it's easier to be trying to solve the puzzle rather than being the person trying to make everybody else not solve the puzzle.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's my favorite part of the game is the puzzle. So yeah, I definitely like being good. If I'm not going to be good, and I'm going to say the same thing everybody else says, is they prefer to be a minion because being the demon is just so much pressure. But I've had some really fun games as the demon too. With or like the imp being able to pass their die and pass it on,
Right.
or have a Scarlet Woman and die and pass it on. Sometimes there's some interesting aspects, and I think some of my favorite games, I was a minion. Some of my most memorable games, I was a minion, which is crazy to me because I do prefer being good. And I don't care if I lose, even being good. Like the
Right.
game we played on Friday night, I was the klutz, and I was like, "Yeah, kill me day one. I'll just pick Jeremy. It'll be funny." And day one re-rack. So, and I think I laughed so hard after that. What about you? What are your? You see, you like good.
I do prefer being good. If I'm evil, I'd probably prefer being a minion. I haven't really. I'm trying to think the last time I've been a demon. Like I said, I don't play near as much as most of the people I'm talking to on here. So I do have. I think most of my games I played, other than my own stream recently, is on the TPI stream, and I feel like I have a pretty bad luck streak on there, losing whether I'm good or evil. And usually losing pretty decisively, but it happens. But yeah, I probably do prefer being a minion over a demon, generally speaking. But like I said, I just haven't had a lot of experience being demon yet. I don't know.
Do you think that you prefer, like, so if you're watching the game, do you watch it a lot?
Not a ton. I used to watch it more, but so when I'm working, I usually watch YouTube a lot, and I have such a variety of stuff I'm watching that fitting Blood on a Clocktower in there isn't really always on top of my priority. And I enjoy watching it, but I guess not enough to go out of my way to watch it again. I still do watch No Rules Barred in their live episodes, at least for as long as they're going. They only have about a couple months left of those, but maybe 1 month. No, a couple months.
Do you think you root for evil or good in those?
I don't really. I'm neutral usually. I just like seeing the fun plays and seeing what people do. What kind of seeing what kind of interactions come up. When things just fall in a line. I'm trying to even think of a good example. I can't really think of one, but just like let's say the last No Rules Barred episode, at least as of this recording, when late in the game they decide to tell another player that they're the marionette, even though they're not. Like they have the marionette telling somebody they're the marionette, and seeing their reaction, and just stuff like that's fun. Or one of the games I ran this last week on the TPI Mega Stream. That was it. A minion. So it's a Shabaloth game. Professor's not a bluff. It's not in play, but a minion just randomly decides to claim Professor. And the gambler died right away, but they died to their own ability, but was also targeted by the Shabaloth. So that means they can be regurgitated the next day. So the minion claiming to be Professor is trying to think up reasons in her head while they'll say that they'll have picked this player, but it didn't work. But because he can be regurgitated, I regurgitate him. And she's like, see, I brought him back to life. And they still thought she was evil. They thought she was the Shabaloth claiming Professor. She wasn't. But evil won because that distracted everybody enough.
I think that sometimes I find myself, if I'm just watching, if I'm not playing and rooting one way or the other, but like I root more for evil, even though I prefer to be good. When I'm watching, because like you said, it's a harder thing to win as evil,
right?
And so you kind of want to root for the underdog or whatever.
And that's how Ben Burns looks at it, is that evil, starts on the game on the back foot, and it does kind of give him that underdog kind of thing. Yeah.
I think the only time I end up rooting for the good team when I'm just watching an episode is when it's a player perspective and that player is good. Then I'm like, okay, let's go, Ben. I just watched him play where he was the pacifist. Haven't finished that episode yet, so looking forward to finishing that tonight.
Yeah, I think I do sometimes watch the TPI stream when they're live, particularly on Thursdays. Not always, but yeah, it's pretty fun to watch. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, but what kind of characters do you like to play, and which ones do you prefer to avoid? And that you can kind of say for both good or evil.
Yeah, I say if I'm a character, I guess I kind of have different play styles. And I can be somewhat predictable, but I still try to change it up every now and then. I liked I like information roles where I'm going to get good information. Um, as far as like the monk is more of that protection role, and I'm good with that. It's like, okay, who can I protect? Um, I was the a traveler, I was the apprentice traveler, and you gave me the what was it?
Is that the innkeeper? Yeah.
Innkeeper.
Yeah.
And so I was using that to keep the goon good. And so I didn't care that everyone knew what my role was because I knew I wasn't actually doing any good except for keeping the goon good. So it just kind of, I like being able to do something and help. But I also love just being able to say, okay, well, I'm not going to get any information other than what I have. You can kill me so that we can get more information and then hopefully people trust me. If I'm a minion, I kind of like that extra puzzle of potentially being able to win the game. So like the goblin, I've had a goblin win with Taylor, and that was one of my more favorite game wins. I like being a minion in a Vigor Mortis game. I'm like, kill me. I had a great game with Matthew where I was the pit hag and I had him kill me night one, and we just wrecked it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's all over the board. I don't know that I've played a character that I didn't enjoy playing. Even the mutant, with Madness. And it's like, do I break Madness? Do I secretly break Madness?
Right.
What can I do to help as best as I can? What are your favorite characters to play?
I find myself being more drawn to either, well, generally, I guess, more low key characters, or doesn't have to be passive. I think empaths is a good example. They get ongoing information, and their information is very easy to decipher. Now, as usual, there's reasons why it might be wrong, and it gives you a little bit of puzzle, but, 0, 1, or 2, either none of your neighbors are evil, both are, or one or the other is. Now, I've been a poison empath who got zeros and really trusted both my neighbors, and turned out they were both evil, and the demon was right beside me and they won. But which was fun because that was like a bit of a twist. I've talked about this a lot, but Ogre, the recently released Ogre, is is my favorite character, really. And for me, I think that fits perfectly because you pick a player at the start, you don't know what team you're on, so that's kind of part of the puzzle. But you're on the same team as this player, no questions about it, and you work from there. And I really like that idea. Yeah.
What my favorite?
I'm looking. I'm looking at it here, and I'm like, Dreamer is a pretty good one. It's relatively simple. Then I'm looking at Mathematician, and like Mathematician can be a hard one because you get a number. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It can mean so many different things.
Oracle, same thing. It's like you get information and but it's like, is that actually? I never trust my Oracle information.
Yeah, Oracle's not so bad, but yeah, it can be tricky on its home script or like a Sex and Violets because it could mean Vortox, it could mean a Fengu jump, it could mean a Vigor Mortis kill. Yeah, there's lots of things for it. Savant's a fun character to be, but I'm still like, I don't know. It's a lot of information to take down and try to figure out.
Get that role. I've helped people. I've helped a Yagababble as a savant. He was a Yagababble claiming savant, and I totally believed him. But
thinking about evil characters, Poisoner is a nice one because it gives you a puzzle. It's like, okay, who should I be trying to poison? Mm-hmm. And that really is like a puzzle because good players are lying, and usually or sometimes, and yeah, it's good to figure out. I'm looking at this script. I've never been a marionette, at least not yet.
I was my daughter's marionette in one of the only games she played online.
That's
it was
funny.
Trash.
Boom Dandy, I've been once, and it's actually on this script. So I did script notes with Alejo and Navian, and then they do a thing where like the next day they run whatever script they're showcasing. So Alejo ran Extension Cord. I played in games. They're kind of smaller games, but in the one game I was the Boom Dandy. It's actually funny because part of script notes they ask, if you were, what good character would you want to be from the script, and then what evil character would you want to be from the script? And I said empath, and then I ended up being the empath, and then I said Boom Dandy, and I ended up being the Boom Dandy. And this is like 8 or 9 players. There's a damsel in play, and day one, my demon makes a, obviously fake because they're not a minion, but a fake damsel guess. And everybody's like, well, we're going to vote for you. And of course, everybody else voting, so I had to vote too. So it's a unanimous vote on my demon. Day one, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to be making a damsel guess. And the storyteller's, counting down from 10. And I'm like, I think it's down here on this bottom left. And all of a sudden, somebody on the other side goes, hey, so-and-so, just in case it's a play, and they kind of indicate themselves. So I'm like, I claim minion and guess so-and-so is a damsel. Evil wins.
Oh, lovely.
And that was my Boom Dandy experience, getting the day one damsel win. So it's kind of like, I didn't get a Boom Dandy explosion, but it's kind of like two birds, one stone. So that was pretty fun. But characters like that I think are fun for evil.
I think damsel. I'm not as afraid of damsel, I think, as a lot of people are. I can see why it's scary, but I definitely, if I'm a minion and there's a damsel in the play, I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Yeah. I've never been a damsel. No, wait. Actually, I take that back. I think I have been a damsel once, but we ended up losing not because of damsel. Either way, I feel like the more you play this game, you just kind of, and I tend to be a somewhat nervous player, not as much as before, but you just kind of have to be like, it's a game. I've seen some of the, what you might consider to be the best players lose day one by being executed or whatever, and it just happens. So you just kind of realize nobody's going to be mad at you for it. Everybody's cool. You just set up a new game. It is what it is.
Like I said, I did it last week, and there was a lot of laughs.
Yeah. We kind of mentioned Madness earlier, or at least you did. So what are your thoughts on Madness? How do you like to play Madness? Whether it's a mutant, Cerenovus, etc.
I like Madness as a mechanic. I think it just kind of adds that whole new layer of figuring out what's going on in the game. And I think sometimes I like that, add an expansion, adds information, adds, different ways to play the game. And I think that Madness is really just one of those layers of complexity that changes it enough without changing the core of the game, and just creates a new type of puzzle for you to figure out. I don't mind playing Mad. It definitely changes things up. I've definitely gotten some really good rolls, and like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then somebody will come to me and say, you're Cerenovus Mad. I'm like, you suck. But yeah, and it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this now? So change it up and change the way you play, and that's always fun. So
yeah, I think that happened a few weeks ago, sadly, where I think you're the Alcihir, and night one somebody makes you mad at something else, and unfortunately, just did not work out well for your character. It worked out good for evil, but
it was the Recluse.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was on vacation during that one, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to play.
Yeah. I like Madness. I don't have a ton of experience with it as a player. I have some experience with it. I do remember, I think, 2 different occasions being a mutant in a Leviathan game, and that's relatively high stress. But because you only get 2 good executions.
Yeah, I've never thought about that.
The one game I enjoyed because there were 2 travelers and seamstresses on the script, so I just claimed to be the seamstress, and that I picked the 2 travelers and learned they were on opposite teams because let's be honest, most likely they were.
Fairly likely.
And I was like, oh, let's just try this and do it, and then that was just my claim for the rest of the. It was eventually double claimed somebody, but that eventually kind of oddly bought me trust. So, Madness is fun. It's one of the more challenging things, I think, but in a mostly fun way, I think. Just like, okay, how do I make this believable, or as believable as possible? Anyway, it's I don't. So, a lot of things in this game aren't necessarily unique to the game. The package is unique, but there's a lot of concepts here you can find elsewhere. I don't know if I know any other games with the equivalent of Madness or not. So that one I feel like is actually pretty unique to this game.
And I would say not in a clean, well done way. So like there's games that make you act different or act crazy or force you to lie or force you to do certain things. But that doesn't really force you, because you can still make the choice to not follow through in Madness. There's consequences for not following through with it. But it's not done in a silly or goofy or ridiculous way. Like some of the I'm not saying that they're not fun games, but it just does it. It adds like an element to the game. So,
and we talked about the social aspect of the game. That's a extremely social aspect of trying to, as sincerely as possible, convince people that something's true even though it's not. Or from the other side, trying to be like, well, is this player mad, or are they just like really convinced that this thing's true? This person nominated me and trying to paint me as evil because they're harpy mad, or because they really think I'm evil. So yeah, it's a very social character or social mechanic. That's pretty fun. All right, well now is my favorite section, the divisive characters. So let's see what we think about some of these characters that some consider to be divisive, at least. How do you feel about Snake Charmer?
I am a weenie when it comes to Snake Charmer. Mostly because I was Snake Charmer in a Little Monster game and picked a psychopath who was holding baby monster after telling Blake that I was the Snake Charmer.
Yeah, that's yeah.
The only thing that saved me was the fact that it was a Little Monster game. It's like, okay, now I'm just psychopath and they can't kill me. So
yeah.
I've picked people before, but I just always get super nervous. Like, I really don't want to become the demon.
That's fair. I think I've only been Snake Charmer 2 or 3 times that I can think of. And to be honest, I'm not sure any of them was in Sex and Violets. I remember one was a custom script. Picked a couple of people, then I was killed at night. And that was, it's kind of, as a Snake Charmer, that's one of your best uses, where you clear a couple of people as not the demon, and then your ability is done, and you can move on from there. I think the other time I just picked a couple of people than myself. I can't remember. That would have been so long. That would have been back in the Zoom days. Yeah, I don't mind the character in general, but I also haven't had that experience of having picked a demon. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to know for sure.
I don't even remember if we won. I remember it lasted a while in that game. But I mean, even just a few weeks ago, was it a week ago? We played and I was the Snake Charmer, and I picked Lynn, who was the demon, but I just happened to be like poisoned that night. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wrecked my brain. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And I was so pressured into picking one more person because everyone knew I was the Snake Charmer. I don't want to pick anybody else.
I've seen some people, when they've outed as Snake Charmer, they'll still pick other people, but they'll pick the least likely demon candidates and hope and 100% try to 100% clear them as not the demon. I have seen that backfire before, but
Lynn was sitting right next to me, and I just trusted her, and she just had me.
Yeah, so I don't mind Snake Charmer, but like I said, well, maybe I would feel differently. But I think, and this is true pretty much any of these characters, I generally think, even if it's not a character that I necessarily enjoy a ton, or like particularly like, I just try to have fun with them anyway. I mean, they're part of the game. It's a big game. You're not going to like every single aspect, but I feel like attitude can go a long way. So
100%.
Yeah. How do you feel about Poppy Grower?
I haven't played too many games with Poppy Grower. I think I've had a few. I think it adds an interesting aspect to the game. It's like, okay, so my whole strategy has to change if I'm a minion, and I'm just going to have to figure out what I can claim until I can figure out who's evil. Same thing with magicians, similar feeling of like, that's that extra person in that people. You don't know who you can talk to. And I remember like one game, there was I think it was the demon, and it was like a chef one, and I was like, oh, okay. I can figure out who's on my evil team based on that
Right.
information, because I have some information as to who's on my team. But same thing with Poppy Grower. It's just like, it's that one more added level of puzzle to figure out how to get through and do the very best that you can, whether it's at playing as good in a potential Poppy Grower game or playing as evil in a definite Poppy Grower game.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can think of one Poppy Girl game I've been in as an evil player at least. I don't even know if I've ever been in one as a good player. I probably have. I just don't really remember. Um, yeah, it's fine, especially if the script's kind of built for it. Some scripts I feel like don't handle it quite as well. Um, I can get why some people wouldn't like it, but I don't know. To me, it's an interesting challenge. Again, if the script's kind of built for it, can it go wrong? Sure. Lots of things in this game can go wrong, so it's whatever.
Your Christian friend is asking you what you think of the atheist, Sam. What do you think of the atheist?
I played an atheist in the Teensyville, which I feel like mostly doesn't count just because it's such a different experience. I think I would enjoy it quite a bit. I have been evil in a script with atheists on it, and we ended up winning by executing the storyteller, which, to be honest, didn't feel the best. But I think other people were in the game that didn't really care for atheists, so I think that might have been it. I know at least as a storyteller, it's really fun to set up a game and have. I usually run my games where I try to set up as a puzzle, as you usually do, but it usually gets more and more as town gets more aware that it's probably an atheist game for sure, making it a bit more sillier and obvious, and everybody's like, oh, look at this goofy thing that's happened, let's kill Sam now. So I feel like if I was a player on that end, I would also have fun with that kind of thing. Some storytellers just go whole ham silliness from start to finish, and I would try to enjoy that too. So what do you think? What do you think of Atheist?
I say I don't think I've ever actually played with an atheist in the game. I think I've only ever played with atheists on the script. So trying to figure out whether it could be an atheist. And I think one of my favorite experiences was when I was so certain it was an atheist game, because it was that fish bucket game, and it turned out to be.
Right.
And it was just, I remember that moment where it clicked. It was like, it's definitely not atheist. It's Legion. And so just try, again, that puzzle, that added layer of figure out what's the information telling me. And so I, as a character, I love it. So Sam, what do you think about the Heretic?
Like a lot of these characters, I don't really have a lot of experience with Heretic. I do remember a long time ago being in a game. I was evil, and it was a Poppy Grower game. And I was a goblin in that one. I don't know. Long story short, we ended up losing pretty early, because I don't remember what happened. I just remember a good one because it was a Heretic game, and it kind of be like, okay, well, that was a game, I guess.
It's that deflating feeling.
Yeah,
like,
I mentioned this a few times in some previous episodes, but I feel like the Banshee release script, as a storyteller at least, is the best Heretic script that I've seen. So maybe I should set up a time to make sure I play that at some point and see what I see really how I feel about it. I guess without really having played many Heretic games, it's hard to say. I think I would definitely understand why people find it frustrating, because it's just it flips the game on its head in such a way that it's hard to know for sure.
I think it would be helpful if either team had a fair opportunity to figure it out. But it's like, if it's just obvious, then it stinks, because evil can just kill themselves. But but yeah, I don't know. I have not played in a game with a heretic in the game, so I've only ever seen it played. So I'd be curious to play in said game, just because I would wonder how I feel. But at the same time, I think that whether I win or lose, either way, if I'm having fun, I don't care. It doesn't feel like a
Exactly.
loss to me. Even if it's like, oh, I worked so hard and then we lost. It's like, well, I still feel like I won because I had a lot of fun playing.
I think Heretic's probably a little bit like Damsel in that probably one of the best ways to play is you got to find, because usually in any given game you can kind of find somebody that you can trust. Whether because they got killed right away, or they was killed by a witch, or any number of things, and that can probably help quite a bit, making sure there's ways where somebody can help paint the heretic world and then hide it.
Yes.
Or try to hide it anyway.
Yeah, because you need it. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of pressure. I would say that if I was the heretic, it would kind of feel like that whole I'm the demon. This game is resting on my shoulders, but it's for the good team instead.
Mm-hmm. All right, one character left on the divisive list. How do you feel about Legion?
I love Legion. I didn't like Legion until the last time I played in a Legion game, which is funny. But I guess mostly because I had been Legion, so I like being good. So maybe that had to, but it was fun. It felt like a different kind of puzzle to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I love the puzzle side of the game. So easy answer.
Legion definitely goes with the social side. I've also heard it plays better, like it plays okay online and plays even better, like plays real well in person. I would love to experience that in person at some point. I think I've only been in one Legion game, and that was on a TPI stream, and I was on the Legion team. Mm-hmm. We did end up winning, and it felt pretty good. You feel a little bad for the handful of good teams. I kind of think of it as almost like a theater, because it's like, if you have a 12-player game, it's like 9 players putting on a show for 3 players and trying to throw them off. So it's a little weird in that aspect, I guess. But I don't mind it. But again, kind of like some of these other ones, maybe we'll see how I feel when I'm on a good team in a Legion game. I'm not sure.
I think that for me, that was like the best puzzle, figuring that out. And then when it clicked, it was like, oh, I love this. This is great. And I was the balloonist in that game. That's what it was. And I was trying to figure out why I had only gotten 3 days of information. So the new balloonist ability is cool for that aspect, where it would have helped me not quite narrow it down. Like, this is definitely a Legion game.
Yeah. New balloonist might be kind of rough on that, because Legion registers as both minion and demon, so it just feels like it almost makes it. I feel like it might be one scenario where old balloonist is more useful, or more balanced, I should say, because old balloonist was more powerful in general. But yeah.
Well, once it realized, I was like, okay, it wasn't the demon that I didn't get; it was the fact that I didn't get any outsiders, and then there was 2 people alive that were both claiming outsiders. I was like, okay, you guys are both just evil. Because I didn't get either of them. So, yeah.
And that was a tricky one too, because it was Fish Bucket, so that kind of changes that dynamic quite a bit. But I was glad Balloonist came up, and I purposely didn't put in an outsider. I mean, you don't usually put outsiders in a Legion game anyway, but I knew that was going to be important for trying to make it be a big clue that, hey, this is something's going wrong here.
That was fun. It was probably one of my favorite games that we've played. So,
all right. Well, we have a multiple choice time. We started doing this recently, and we thought it went pretty well. So I guess we can just kind of go back and forth on that if you'd like.
Yeah.
So I got my list here. I'll just start with my first 3 to hand to you. So we'll go with funny enough, Alchemist, Balloonist, or Steward.
I kind of like the Alchemist. I haven't gotten to do that yet, so I'm going to say Alchemist, because it'd be really fun to try to make people believe that I'm not evil.
It's kind of funny too how I know a lot of alchemists I've seen tend to just read good somehow. maybe it's because it's just how they end up using their ability because, or maybe it's just a meta that needs to be updated. I don't know, but yeah, alchemists in my experience seem to be pretty believed pretty easily, surprisingly.
I think we played in an alchemist. I think I played in an alchemist game where I wasn't the alchemist, but the alchemist was a goblin, and we killed the alchemist goblin and won. That was fun.
I think Heretic usually pairs very well with those scripts for that reason, though.
I bet it would.
Yeah. You want
All right,
first?
so yours for your townsfolk. I'm gonna say choir boy, cult leader, or engineer.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Not choir boy. Choir boy, I think, is literally the bottom of the list of all Clocktower characters for me.
Okay.
Engineer and cult leader. I think I might go with cult leader. I don't feel strongly about it. Engineer's good, but I don't know. It's a rough character to fit in any script. Cult leader is interesting because, I mean, yes, you have your alternate win condition, but a lot of alternate win conditions in this game isn't necessarily designed to actually win with that condition. It's just more, so, you know, basically with cult leader, you're kind of like you're a spicy empath, as they would say. You might turn evil, you might turn back good, but it's information, you know. I think that could be interesting. I've never been any of those characters, I don't think. So
I think the engineer is interesting, except that frustrating. I think I've been on an evil team where there was an engineer who decided to change it, and I was like, oh, come on, really? I like the role.
Yeah. So going on to outsiders, we got ogre, politician, or plague doctor.
I kind of knew you were going to go with ogre.
I completely randomized this, I swear.
No. I like the ogre. I like the new that new character, new outsider. I actually really like being an outsider, which is really weird. But someone that can do something and try to I've never been it. I think it'd be fun to be it. It's created some interesting games that I've watched to see, okay, what happens, like the NRB release of the character where he turns evil and doesn't know it. Yeah, it's fun.
My if you want to hint at some of my evil tell, a lot of times when I'm evil, because it's a lot easier to bluff, I usually go with an outsider. But of course, then sometimes I'm an outsider, and I'm like, I swear I'm not evil. I had one game where I was before the game, I was like, I am not claiming outsider no matter what, and then I pulled an outsider token. So I'm like, I'm a townsfolk. Wink.
So my outsiders for you are acrobat, damsel, or snitch.
Ooh, that's also a rough combo.
I know. I picked rough combos. I picked. I picked.
The criticism with snitch is usually, and I don't know if I necessarily mind this, but you don't really have anything to do as a character. You just kind of exist, and evil has more information for it. I think that works with Baron adding outsiders, but it's a little rougher, I think, as a good character. Damsel, and what was the other one?
Acrobat.
Acrobat's pretty eh. I guess let's go Damsel. It's a tough character to play. I probably would never wish to be the damsel, but it's very interesting character, at least.
I think that's what I picked the list for that I'm asking you, is because they seem to be very interesting, very unique type characters.
Yeah.
So I'll go with your minion next. Widow, organ grinder, or summoner.
Ooh. I've been the summoner a couple of times. Once was public, once was before it was released. That game went better. Yeah, I think I like being the summoner. I think I'd probably go summoner. The first time I played it, I actually won with it. I was claiming an outsider in that game. Funny enough. There's some other stuff I unfortunately can't talk about, but I ended up picking, I was sat next to a spy, so we had the full Grim. Because at the time, you didn't learn bluffs as a summoner. But thankfully, again, I was right next to a spy. So I picked an innkeeper, and I don't know, it worked. We somehow managed to frame somebody who was good at the end, and that's what town went, and we won.
Nice.
Then the other time was on the TPI stream, and
I think I saw that.
executed on day 2. And this was a reveal stream, and that was after a re-rack. The first time around, I wasn't the summoner. It was only after we had a re-rack, and I was a summoner, and yeah. But it's a fun character, I think. Kind of the whole choose your own demon thing. You have a couple of days to try to, get the lay of the land, figure out who might be best for that, and it really turns the whole somebody who reads good for the first couple of days. Well, now you suddenly can't necessarily trust what they have to say, or you have reasons to, even as a good player, lie about what you're saying on the first day because you might not be, that might work against you once you turn into an evil demon. So, yeah, I think Summoner's pretty cool. All right, for you, we've got Goblin, Vizier, and Fearmonger.
All right, so you said Goblin, and that's all I needed. Goblin. I love the Goblin. Like I said, one of my favorite wins was as a Goblin win. Taylor was my demon, and it's just, and it was like early on too. So those early on evil wins are cool. But I love the Goblin. I love the character. I like being around. Like it's interesting to play in a game where good players are claiming Goblin because it's on the script and people are like unwilling to kill them. And like I've seen other good players like I can't wrap my brain around why they might be doing this, like because they don't want to die.
Right, exactly.
It's like it doesn't mean that they're lying. It doesn't mean that they're actually evil. When someone claims Goblin, I don't always automatically assume they're evil.
Right. Yeah, Goblin's definitely a fun one. And it's kind of like what I said before. Goblin probably does want the alt-win condition more than some of the other characters. But its main goal isn't to win with the Goblin ability; it's to make people not want to execute, and it's it's something that evil can utilize even when there's not actually a Goblin because it just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think good too. I think good uses it just as much as evil does sometimes.
It depends. It depends on the group, I've noticed, but yeah, there is a lot of people out there who will gladly hide behind it.
It's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
So for demons, Leviathan, Leech, or Yagababble?
I randomized mine. That is the exact same 3 in that order that I have for you. I swear to you.
That's
in that order. Leviathan, Leech, Yagababble. Okay, so I've not been any of these characters. Definitely not the Yagababble because it's definitely new. I'm torn between Leviathan and Leech because Leviathan kind of goes back to the whole laid back thing. But the concept of Leech, I think Leech is not a particularly powerful demon. That's a fun demon.
Yeah.
I think I would go with Leviathan because I think I'd prefer to just kind of hang around 5 days, hope you survive, and see how it goes. Leech is fun, but I think I'd be a little bit more stressed trying to keep somebody else alive. I might be more stressed trying to keep somebody else alive than myself. I'm not sure. I would go with Leviathan for that one.
I think Yagababble played an interesting game. I was not the Yagababble, but I was playing against a Yagababble, and I liked the test to see how many times you can say it, and from just watching it too, it's like it's interesting when you know the phrase, right, and you're hearing it multiple times, and people are missing it because it's just something so commonly said. A lot of times, if it's done, I think well and right, it's like, what does this person might say a lot, and so it's been, and I think it was double claiming. It's like the phrase was
that's a double claim.
So, and that person was the savant, or saying that they were the savant, and so they just really had me believing them because they were just really giving good information. And so for me as a good player, and Evil won that game because we just didn't think that there's any way that they could bluff all of that savant information, but man, they pulled it off, and that was just impressive. So I think it's interesting to watch players take a complicated role like that. That who can, I mean, you can figure it out pretty easily if you're aware of the things that people are saying, but at the same time, do so well. I would be curious to see how that plays in person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Yagababble. So it's another character that I first experienced before it was released, and just reading the ability, I did, and I think a lot of people have this gut reaction of that does not look fun at all for the demon. But I played in a game, and we lost, and it ended up being Yagababble as the demon. And it occurred to me, it's like I had no idea. Like it's kind of like what you said. When you know the phrase, it feels super obvious, but when you don't, it's actually kind of hard to tell. And I had no. I was shocked that it was a Yagababble. So that really changed my mind on the game. And then it's a very difficult demon to run. But I ran that game that you just mentioned, and he was very nervous, understandably so. And but nobody knew. I don't know who said it, but after the game, somebody said, "I thought it was strange you were so obsessed with double claims," or something along those lines. And nobody. It was a new character at the time, so people probably expected Yagababble was going to be in play, and that changes a little bit. But even then, I mean, like you said, nobody really had a clue. So
yeah, well, I think we knew it was Yagababble. We just didn't know it was him.
Right. And like I said, once you get, kind of past that initial, oh, this is a brand new character, so it's more likely to be in, you got 4 demons on a script, it's hard to try to nail down that somebody might be Yagababble and trying to pay attention to that phrase, because that might be a waste of bandwidth in your head trying to figure that out.
I would be curious how a Yagababble would play in a script that's more like Bad Moon Rising, where there is a lot of death. And so
It'd be interesting.
Try to figure out what, like, just some of those characters where you're trying to figure out why someone is dying. But then I'd almost worry that it might be too much because there might be too many deaths.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure.
But I would like to ask this last question because it's my favorite question.
You came up with this one, so yeah.
I did. So, Sam, if you were any of these characters in real life, what would you like to be?
The best part is, even though I know this question's coming up, I have not thought about this. So I do get the joy of trying to think this through. I have an idea. In high school, I took a lot of math classes, and that did not stick with me at all. So it's not going to be a mathematician. Not much into fishing. No monk, because I'm not much into religion myself. You know what I think I would probably enjoy would be investigator. Kind of like snooping around trying to figure things out. Actually, funny enough, I have been recently playing a video game. I'm terrible at it. I'm new at it, and it's kind of got a bit of learning curve. But it's called Shadow of Doubt, and it's literally a detective simulator game with a whole simulated city full of like 100 citizens, and murders happen, and you have to try to figure it out. And I'm still trying to figure out how the game works, but that's what I've been doing a bit lately. That and a storm chasing game, but we don't have Vortox on here, so. So what about you? What character would you like to be in real life?
So your comment about monk was actually kind of interesting. I didn't even think about that. So I mean, on the script, I'd have to say monk, but just in general, I would have to say minstrel because, my cello. I love cello. Right. It's another big part of who I am. I play at my church, and I've played since I was 9. So minstrel would be my answer for real.
Cool. I think that was that Ben Burns
when he said it
for a similar reason. Yep.
So cool. He's a guitar player. So if I remember correctly, I think he said guitar.
I don't remember, it might be bass. I'm not sure which is the type of guitar, but
I have one of those too.
I have
It's
an electric guitar back in the corner, but all right. Well, Nina, that was a lot of fun. So thank you for doing this with me. This is your idea, so maybe you should be thanking me. I don't know.
I think it was a fun idea and just
Yeah,
one to change it up. So
yeah, and it's cool to kind of get our own thoughts out there, and then we're going to mix it up a little bit more next week because Nina, you will be doing an interview. What are you doing next week?
I will be interviewing my little lovely daughter. She's not really little. She's actually taller than me, but she has a different perspective as a still new player to the game, but as a teenager. I mean, this can be a family game, so
Mhm.
I thought it would be interesting to hear from a young voice.
And she's mainly played in person, I believe.
Yep, she's played a few games online, but loves playing in person and loves introducing new players to the game. And she also watches it, so she's actually got a pretty good understanding about the game.
Cool. Well, yeah. So stay tuned for that next week. That should be a lot of fun. And like I said, we try to mix it up every now and then. So yeah, we'll be back next week with that episode. Until then, see you later.